Tonight, border backlash.
This is nothing but for show unless it begins to enforce the immigration laws already that exist.
The growing pressure to confront a record surge of migrants even after President Biden's first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border.
It's amazing what you do.
Plus,
that was easy, huh?
With a freshly installed Speaker of the House,
we will use the power of the purse and the power of the subpoena to get the job done.
The real work and legislative battles begin. And the first rally since the Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade.
We will continue marching.
What to expect during next week's 50th annual March for Life. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Fallout after the president's first trip to the southern border. Welcome to Faith Nation from our studio in Washington. I'm John Jessup. Well, tonight the president is on foreign travel, meeting with his North American counterparts in Mexico City. But the dust has yet to settle from his trip to the southern border, which fierce critic Texas Governor Greg Abbott described as too little, too late. CBN White House correspondent Abigail Robertson joins us now. Abby, the weekend visit follows months of Republican criticism and also record-high illegal crossings.
That's right, John. And just days after President Biden announced new policies to address the growing influx of migrants, he traveled to El Paso, Texas, to see the situation firsthand.
Amazing what you do.
During his visit, Biden toured a migrant service center, met with Border Patrol agents at the country's busiest crossing, and made an unannounced stop at the border wall. The trip follows Biden's decision last week to crack down on illegal crossings that has upset many Democrats and human rights activists. The move will allow up to 30,000 migrants each month from Cuba, Nicaragua, Haiti, and Venezuela to legally apply for asylum, while expelling migrants from those four countries who cross illegally. Last year alone, authorities estimate more than 2 million border crossings, with El Paso being one of the busiest entry points.
At this rate, we've had 90,000 people released since mid-August. So you get to certain pockets downtown, and you'll see in a block hundreds of people sleeping on the street, outside a church, outside the Greyhound bus station. And so it is very evident that there is a humanitarian crisis.
Anna Duritelli from the Washington Examiner tells CBN News some Border Patrol agents doubt Biden got the real picture during his visit.
President Biden's going to visit the port of entry, but he will not be down on the ground below that port, where Governor Abbott has sent in 700 National Guardsmen, as well as state troopers.
Duritelli says for weeks, thousands of migrants have lived in makeshift encampments on the street near a church and bus station in El Paso that were cleared ahead of Biden's visit. And she adds many migrants without legal right to remain in the U.S. are blending into these groups.
4 Border Patrol officials who I spoke with here in El Paso said it wasn't because of Biden's visit. They said they were learning that there was a lot of crime in the area. There's been gangs coming in and trying to recruit some of these young men sleeping outside the church. There's been theft, other issues.
Video taken by NBC shows law enforcement arresting migrants sleeping on the street near the church in the week before the president's arrival.
The timing is questionable. I asked the city if they cleaned up because of President Biden coming, and they did not respond.
While Texas Governor Greg Abbott delivered Biden a letter laying out the state's needs from the federal government, he told reporters the visit was 2 years and $20 billion too late.
This is nothing but for show unless it begins to enforce the immigration laws already that exist in the United States of America.
Governor Abbott says President Biden told him he wants to work with him on the issue, and there is widespread consensus that the only productive path forward is a bipartisan immigration plan. John?
Abigail, can you tell us more about the president's schedule tonight?
Yes. Well, tonight, President Biden is having a bilateral meeting with the president of Mexico. And then afterwards, President Biden and the First Lady will attend a dinner with the president of Mexico and Prime Minister of Canada and their wives. And throughout today and tomorrow, the three leaders will be discussing issues affecting North America, including the spread of fentanyl migration, clean energy, and boosting North American supply chains and strengthening North American manufacturing. John?
Some major issues for the continent. Abigail Robertson, thank you so much for your reporting. Well, the work of the United States House of Representatives is just beginning after the drama of last week's House Speaker vote. The Republican-controlled chamber wants to pass what it calls a bold agenda. But before they get to it, they first have to establish new House rules. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Matt Galka joins us now. Matt, is the drama over?
Well, maybe not. And it starts with agreeing to those House rules that Kevin McCarthy had to give up a lot of ground on in order to get his new title.
But I hope one thing is clear after this week. I never give up.
Newly minted House Speaker Kevin McCarthy survived 15 rounds of voting and unrest in his own party before securing the Speaker's gavel. He intends to get to work right away.
Our very first bill will repeal the funding for 87,000 new hours.
But before that, the House will have to pass a rules package. It's typically a routine set of procedures that members follow. But McCarthy had to bend the rules and cede power in order to secure enough votes from Republicans to get the gavel. That includes the ability for any one member of the House to call for a motion to remove McCarthy as Speaker and to cap spending. At least one House Republican says he's a no.
I'm against the rules for a couple different reasons. One is the defense spend, the cut in defense.
Yes.
I think that's an absolutely terrible idea. But the other is to vacate the chair. I mean, I don't want to see us every 2 months be in lockdown. This isn't the parliament.
McCarthy also agreed to establish a new subcommittee investigating what they're calling the weaponization of the federal government.
We're going to investigate, and we need to. We need to make sure that these agencies aren't running amok and aren't out of control, which clearly they are.
Other priorities will include committees focusing on China, including a bill this week that would prevent exporting products from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to the country. There are also 2 pro-life measures scheduled for week 1, including a Born Alive bill that would penalize doctors who don't provide life-saving care to babies born after an attempted abortion. There will also be a resolution condemning attacks on crisis pregnancy centers and religious groups. Now, it will be worth watching how McCarthy gets everyone on the same page for some of these priorities after a drama-filled lead-up to him finally ascending to the Speaker's chair. And they have to settle that rules package first before they get to anything else. John?
CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Matt Galka. Thanks, Matt. Well, here with us now is Julia Manchester, national politics reporter from The Hill. Julia, if what we saw last week and over the weekend was just the beginning, what's the expectation going forward when it comes to the House getting down to business?
Yeah, look, I think the expectation is we could see gridlock not only between Republicans and Democrats, but also within the Republican Party. On top of that, there's also concern that Kevin McCarthy could have to deal with threats from some of those conservative Republican holdouts that we saw delay him getting the speakership last week. We know that some of the concessions for that rules package we've heard a lot about allows at least one Republican member or one member of Congress to begin the process and call for a vote on ousting the speaker. Kevin McCarthy says that's not something he's afraid of or concerned about, but it does show how the speakership under McCarthy could be maybe less powerful than it was under Pelosi or past speakers.
Definitely a weakened position. Julia, you wrote a piece in The Hill about former President Donald Trump's clout taking a hit from the speaker's fight. Was this a litmus test for Trump's influence in the party now? And what does that portend for his 2024 White House bid?
Yeah, I think it can certainly be viewed as a litmus test. Look, you look at these Republican holdouts, Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, for example. These are all Republicans who, very much follow Trump's model and can credit President Trump for a lot of their own political rise among President Trump's followers. However, what we saw last week was these Republicans felt that they could break away from the former president and publicly tell him or say on the House floor that he was wrong. And it kind of goes to show that it's no longer longer President Trump's movement in this conservative part of the party. It's more of the America First movement that was started by President Trump. And you saw someone like Matt Gaetz, for example, openly defying the president, nominating President Trump for speaker at one point. So, or I should say voting for him at one point. So it just goes to show that, he might not have the same iron grip he used to. And if I'm Ron DeSantis or another potential 2024 hopeful looking to get in, that doesn't necessarily upset me.
Just a few seconds left, Julia. Both sides of the political aisle have criticized President Biden's trip to the southern border. Is comprehensive immigration reform on the table at all, or is it even possible given the division in Washington?
It's hard to say. It seems like it's not possible given the division in Washington, but I do think there are a number of Democrats who understand that the situation at the southern border needs to be dealt with in a different sort of way. So I'm curious to see if those more moderate Democrats are willing to speak with the president and maybe there can be some sort of agreement reached or some sort of progress made.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Julia Manchester, national politics reporter for The Hill. We always appreciate your time and insights.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. When we come back, a look at the annual March for Life and how it moves forward in a post-Roe v. Wade world. For 50 years, the March for Life has drawn people to the nation's capital to advocate on behalf of the unborn by calling for the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade. The court did that last June. Next week, pro-life supporters will take to the streets with legalized abortion no longer being the law of the land. Faith Nation anchor Jenna Browder has this look at the 50th March for Life and how it may look different from years past.
It was a momentous victory for the pro-life community. In June, the Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade, returning the issue of abortion back to the states. Still, pro-life groups say the fight's not over, and that's why they are marching on.
We will continue marching.
The 50th annual March for Life, January 20th in Washington, D.C.
We will continue changing hearts.
The first march post-Roe.
The March for Life began as a reaction to Roe v. Wade. So we began the year after Roe, which, of course, that law legalized abortion in all states around the United States.
Jeannie Mancini, president of March for Life, tells CBN News in that time the march has become the world's largest, longest-running human rights demonstration.
I believe that people marching over the years played a large role in the ultimate overturn of Roe. I've heard from Supreme Court clerks that being in the court on that day, the March for Life Day every year, was a very powerful experience, and that I really was not a more powerful symbol than the collective, tens of thousands of marchers going past that Supreme Court every single year to show that that was not settled law.
Now the group's focus shifts to lawmakers. This year, instead of the Supreme Court, they'll march to the U.S. Capitol.
The pro-life generation will be out in full force this year.
Kristen Hawkins, president of Students for Life, expects thousands of young pro-lifers to take part.
You'll see them proudly holding their school banners from their high school or their colleges. They'll be holding the black and white "We are the post-Roe generation" signs as we pass them out. I know we'll be giving out at least 15,000 signs.
While it's a time of celebration after a hard-fought battle for the pro-life community, Mancini says, make no mistake, there's still a lot of work ahead.
A number of years ago, we began a state march initiative as well. So no less than a week and a half later, we'll be in Virginia at the state capitol, marching for life there at the 5th annual march. And we plan to double the number of state marches this year to be in 10 states.
Mancini says their goal is to be in all 50 states within the next 5 to 7 years.
Ask yourself, this January, where will you be?
And if you find yourself in the D.C. area, there is a big lineup of speakers and entertainers, among them Pro Football Hall of Famer Tony Dungy and Jonathan Romy, who plays Jesus in The Chosen. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Jenna. Well, joining us now is Jamie Dangers with SBA Pro-Life America. Jamie, thanks for being here. The March for Life's 50th anniversary is coming up next week on January 20th. Can you speak to its significance as the first since the Supreme Court decision overturned federal protections for Roe v. Wade?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. And we really see this March for Life as one of the most significant yet. Yes, we are in a post-Roe world, But we're really in a new world. This Dobbs era is brand new. And what the Supreme Court did in June was they gave this issue to the people and their elected representatives. We have a lot of work to do, and we need Americans to show up and march with us and with our friends at the March for Life, march to the Capitol this year rather than to the Supreme Court, to show we're not going anywhere. We're still asking for our elected representatives to do everything they can to protect the unborn all across the nation.
Jamie, with Republicans now in control of the U.S. House, as Matt just reported a few minutes ago, bills like the Born Alive Survivors Protection Act have a chance of actually getting to the House floor. Can you talk to us about the likelihood that they can pass and become law, and what will SBA Pro-Life America be doing to help support that law passing?
We were so pleased when Majority Leader Scalise announced that these would be some of the first bills that this new Congress would take up. We think it's important that they set the tone, showing that the pro-life issue is extremely important to the party and to this Congress. So we are asking members of Congress to support the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, and we're asking them to support this resolution that condemns the acts of vandalism and violence against pro-life people at churches, at organizations that exist to help women, to help the unborn. And so we do hope that these will pass in the House. It is a slim majority, but we do have a Republican majority, and we're calling on all Republicans to support both of these pieces of legislation.
Jamie, we just have a couple seconds left. Also in the hopper, as you well know, is a resolution to condemn attacks on churches and pro-life facilities. Talk about its importance, and do you think bipartisan support exists for that on the Hill?
Well, there definitely should be bipartisan support for it. We'll see if that comes to pass. But really, it's been an unprecedented number of acts of violence against these centers. And we have broken it down by congressional district. So many of these acts have happened in districts where there are Democratic representation. And we would ask those to condemn these acts. They may not be with us on the pro-life issue, but certainly they can stand up for their constituents who are serving the least of these.
Jamie, unfortunately, we are out of time. Jamie Dangers with SBA Pro-Life America, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
12 months to tackle the entire Bible. Stick around for some resources designed to keep your resolutions on track. Well, welcome back. It's my first day back in 2023, so Happy New Year. While some may have already given up on their resolutions, others are going strong, including many who are determined to read through the Bible in 2023. Wendy Griffith has this look at some of the different resources available to turn that resolution into reality.
It's a big book, and for Christians, it's the most important book that we ever read. But for many, it can also be the most challenging, especially if you want to read the entire Bible in a year. Actress Patricia Heaton reached that goal in December.
And I finished it today. I can't believe it. I had 2 pages that I checked off all the time, and this is the second page. And as you can see, it's hanging on by a piece of tiny thread of paper. I just went through and kept checking off every day. You know, some days were just revelatory. I saw things I had never seen before. And some days were kind of a slog, mostly Old Testament stuff.
Known for her TV roles in Everybody Loves Raymond and The Middle, Heaton used a reading plan from the Gospel Coalition to help her with her goal. At CBN, we make it easy as well. Just go to cbn.com, click the Faith tab, and subscribe to Read Through the Bible in a Year. Each day, you'll receive selections from the Old and New Testament delivered straight to your email. You can also download the CBN Devotional Bible app for a plan to read the entire Bible in a year. Some may wonder why so few Christians have read the entire Bible, all 66 books, from Genesis to Revelation. Dr. Cornay Becker, Dean of Divinity at Regent University, says,
So I often think we are a little bit intimidated by the history sections as well as the law sections within the Old Testament. But once we discover that it is life-giving to read all of God's Word, to get the wisdom of the entire text, not only does it become doable, easy, but it becomes delightful.
Dr. Becker should know. He's read through the Bible 25 times and makes it a yearly discipline.
What are the benefits of reading the Bible from Genesis to Revelation straight through?
So there's an extraordinary text in Psalms 19 that describes the benefits of meditating on God's Word on a daily basis. And listen to what it says. The law of the law is perfect, reviving the soul. Isn't that something that we need? Secondly, it says the testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. Man, do I need wisdom? I need wisdom on a daily basis. Then it goes on, it says the precepts of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. And then lastly, it says the commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes, opens our eyes to see what is ultimately true.
So if you've always wanted to read through the Bible in a year but haven't had the time, you might be surprised to know that it only takes an average of 15 to 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, to read through the entire Bible in a year.
And who knows, once you've done it, reading the Bible through may become a yearly habit.
I highly recommend it.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
It is for me. Well, coming up, how Damar Hamlin's health scare has prompted more than an outpouring of support and unity. And finally tonight, Damar Hamlin has been released from the University of Cincinnati Hospital 1 week after his near-fatal collapse was captured on live on Monday Night Football. The Buffalo Bills safety's remarkable recovery is a testament to the power of faith and prayer. All 32 NFL teams joined thousands of fans in including Pray for Damar on Twitter. On Saturday, the Titans and Jaguars coming together to do just that, putting competition aside, both teams gathering in a circle before the game, kneeling together to pray.
It's just an unbelievable deal for both teams to get together and pray and thank God for what's happened this week.
On Instagram before the Bills game Sunday, he posted God is using him in a different way. His team going on to beat the New England Patriots 35-23 in New York, and what a remarkable recovery. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.